Boker Tov, good morning. We continue with the 3-minute daily dose of Torah. And looking at the following discussion, the beginning of Parshat Mishpatim, which deals with, on the one hand, something which has nothing to do with us, is the way we lead our lives, rules about maidservants who are sold to an individual and the possibility to become their wives, and what happens when the second one's brought in. And we're not going to get into the details at all, but the Torah uses the following discussion. If you indeed take a second one, another one, Sheira ksutav onata lo yigra. You are not permitted to refrain and cut back on these three things from the first. Now we're shift away from the discussion about maidservants and understand that there's a discussion here about marriage too. What are the three things that the Torah says? She'era, kisuta, va'onata. There is a discussion in the Ramban and others about variant ways to read it other than Rashi, but we're going to look at Rashi today. And he says, She'era, kisuta, va'onata, lo yigra, min ha'ama, shi'ad lo kvar. You should not deny this to this maidservant who was meant to be for you. What are these three? She'era, mizonot. That means support, financial support, food, but it means more than that. It means a general support. Kesuta, kimashma'o, says Rashi. Ksut is clothing, the obligation to provide all those other basic needs. The mezonot would be the survival food, right? The ability to make it each day in life, and the clothing that you need. And onata, the third, is translated as ona is tashmish, is relations. So here again, in the context of the maidservant, there's something we should be aware of. But in the end, we learn from this, and whether this is indeed understood to be min haTorah, from the Torah itself, a biblical command, or rabbinic, as commentaries will often point out. These are the obligations that are implicit in a marriage on the part of a husband, that he has to provide support for his wife in the various ways of she'era and kesut, and ona, which is something we don't often pay attention to. But there's an obligation and expectation that a husband provide his wife with intimacy and sexual pleasure. I think we automatically presume, maybe clearly wrongly, right, that that we have a system in which the man is controlling a marriage, and there is expectations of the wife towards him to make him feel fulfilled sexually. The Torah's obligation, and there might be some discussions about whether a woman can withhold. It's pretty heavy daily dose of Torah here, right? I admit. But the primary discussion of the Torah is about the husband's obligation to make his wife fulfilled sexually. And it's something to be conscious of and be aware of as a Jewish value. And people tell you somehow about the repressed relationship in Judaism, or the patriarchal component, or the men's control of relationship, understand that the way the Torah frames it, is that a husband is expected, and actually in rabbinic discussion about different jobs that a person will have. If you're a sailor, how often you're expected to make sure you provide, you are there for your wife sexually, and other contexts as well, and different situations you might find yourself in. But it's looking at what you are meant to do as a man to ensure that your wife has her sexual needs fulfilled. What a refreshing and surprising component of Jewish life and Jewish law. We'll continue with other elements of Parshat Mishpatim, God willing, tomorrow. Have a great day.